This is the first episode of the series on basics of C language. In my opinion, it's the best programming language to start with, since it's a very low-level programming language, and if you understand it, you'll have a deep understanding in your computer and how it works on the low level, and from that you can progress to higher level newer technologies, which will give much more freedom, but it's very important to understand why those do what they do. I'm going to be using Mac OS. I like writing C code much more Mac OS. In my opinion, it's easier, but I think you can probably follow along if you're using Windows. Maybe you'll have to search on Google to find different versions or different links, but you'll probably be able to also follow along there. A little bit about C programming language. So there are two types of programming languages. They're compiled and interpreted. C is a compiled programming language, meaning it's written in C language, then it's compiled into binary code. And binary is what your computer can understand. So first of all, you need to install a compiler. I recommend using GCC because it's the easiest to install and get going with. This is the simple command you need to write into your terminal. Brew install GCC. So copy, open up your terminal, just press command space and terminal and just paste it in and press enter. Maybe it'll look a little bit different for you since I'm using the iTerm instead of normal terminal, but it's the same logic, just try the same thing, and it will take a lot longer for you because for me it's already installed and up to date, so I didn't have to do much on it. The next thing you're going to have to install is Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is the text editor I'm using. You can use normal text editors, you can use Notepad, you can use Vim if you want to suffer. You can use whatever you want, just don't use stuff like Word or some text editor that's meant for text. Use something that's meant for code. If you want, you can do your own research. In my opinion, VSCode, Visual Studio Code, is a very lightweight editor, which is very easy to get going with. And I'll probably have a different tutorial on how to set up Visual Studio Code if you're, it's not up yet, but if I post it, I'm going to link it in the description so you can get going and find it much easier. But I have a video already uploaded which is about 6 VS Code extensions, which I recommend going watching after this since it teaches you how to get the maximum out of your VS Code. So just open the website, and by the way, I'm gonna link both of these in the description. Just download for Mac and just a basic setup, and you'll have it going, and it'll open up like this. A second, something like this, and just press open folder and just make a folder on your desktop, call it learning C or something like that, and open. And that will bring you to here where I am right now. So first of all, I'm gonna make a new file. I'm just gonna write it pseudocode.txt, and this is just as an example what we want to do in the first episode. So first of all, we need to include a library called standard input out. I can't type today. Standard input output, or stdio.h for short. This is going to include input and output technology. So because we're going to run it in the terminal to learn the language, we're not going to use any GUI or nothing like that for now. And so we can write display text on the screen, we'll have to use this library which lets us use it. Then we need to make show the program where to start, so we need to make our main section. This is called function or void in C. It's basically code is written inside of functions. There's the main function, and later on I'll show you different types of functions, but for now just focus on the main function, which is going to be containing all of your code. Inside the main function, we need to print something to the screen, and if everything goes successfully, then we'll have to return true, or because computers use binary, zeros or ones. 0 is true, 1 is false, or in this example, and if it returns 0, that means the program was successful. So let's say that, and let's, by the way, this makes a new file. So let's make a new file, and let's call that hello world.c, and you can't use spaces between words, so this is how they use it. Normally write using camel cases. The first word is always lowercase, and every new word is in uppercase after that. Just press enter, and you have to use .c. That's why if you're making it just as a normal file, and if it actually accidentally saved as a .txt, the whole thing won't work. So you need to save it as a .c file. So let's start by including the library. To include a library, you just have to write include, and not just like that, but you have to put a hashtag in front of it, hashtag include. You need to put these two smaller than and greater than signs, and inside that we need to put what we want to include. So we want to include standard io.h. That includes our input-output library. So we got the first one done. Then we need to define our where the program starts. To define where it starts, you have to write int main, 3 parentheses, and curly braces. And just press enter on the curly braces. There you go. Just like that, press enter, and then this will be containing all of your code inside it. You have to use int in front of the main, because int is like, it's for integer, and we're returning an integer because we're returning 0 if it's successful. I'm not going to get into that or not right now, I'm just saying so you know, but later on I'll explain why. But for now, forget about it. Then we have to call the name of the function, which has to be main, so the program knows it has to start there. And then we have to put parentheses. Also later on, when I'll get into functions and voids, I'll explain why we need the parentheses. But for now, just know that you always have to write parentheses after a function. And then you have to put curly braces, because every section of code has to be contained inside curly braces. There are some exceptions, which I'm going to talk about later, but for now, just know that you have to write it inside the curly braces. Then we'll have to write print, and print statements are what puts something onto the screen, but in C you have to write printf instead of print, and then you also have to put a bracket, and then you also have to put parentheses, because printf is also like a function like main, however it's already written for us, so it's inside standard IO. Think of standard IO as another file, and we're just accessing like a function like main from it. So and then inside you have to write the text. So if you want to display hello world, if I can type, and but it's not that easy, because we have to put it inside like that. Every text needs to be surrounded by these. That shows the compiler that it's text inside we want to display. And it's a very important thing inside C language. You have to end every line with a semicolon. And the last bit we have to write is, we have to, if the program was successful, we have to return 0 and end the process. So write return 0, and again we need to write the semicolon at the end of the line to show it the line has ended. And another thing we need to do in C is write \n at the end of the line, which makes it display on a new line. It's not needed, but it's helpful, and if you're writing multiple lines of code, then it'll get weird. So we'll have to press Ctrl S to save. So you're gonna have to start up your terminal, and yeah, we are going to use GCC now to compile the code into machine code. So you're gonna write GCC -o. -o is I'll not get into it now, but it's needed to make it an O file, which your computer can understand. It shows what type of file what we want to save it as. So we'll write the project name, the file name, what we want it to, the application to be called, and then write the file name we want to compile from. And as you can see, there was no problems compiling. And now there's a new file here called hello world, and we can now run that if we write /hello world and press enter. It'll write out hello world onto the screen. So now you're gonna have a task. This was the tutorial for today, but I'm not gonna just leave like that. Let's go back to our pseudocode, and I'm gonna give you some homework to do. So you're gonna have to introduce yourself. You're gonna have to write at least 3 lines of to the screen, and you're gonna have to make multiple printf statements divided by centers, just like that. And you're gonna have to introduce yourself, say your name, say your age, what you do, and stuff like that, and just basically introduce yourself. And in the next video, I'll show you how you have to do that. And if you manage to do it, then good job. I'm proud of you. You learned a lot today. So that's pretty much it for this video. Next video, I'll talk about memory, so we can actually store stuff, how we can access the computer's memory, save values, reuse them later, and that's going to be very cool in my opinion. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time. Goodbye.